The benchmark KOSPI plunged over 5% on Monday, triggered by a sharp decline in gold and silver prices and a risk-averse sentiment following the nomination of the new Federal Reserve Chair. More and more people across the world are buying Korean products, namely Korean food, directly online on the back of the growing popularity of Korean culture. Golden from Netflix's K-pop Demon Hunters wins a historic first Grammy from the K-pop genre, receiving Best Song Written for Visual Media. News that the Trump administration has nominated its next Federal Reserve Chair is stirring renewed uncertainty across global financial markets, and South Korea is no exception. Both the local stock market and the Korean won gave up significant ground amid the heightened volatility. Our Park Jun-han reports.
South Korea's benchmark KOSPI saw a drop of over 5% on Monday amid heavy selling by foreign and institutional investors. As a result, the index fell below the 5,000 mark at the close of trading. At 12:31 p.m., a selling side circuit breaker known as a sidecar was activated and remained in effect for 5 minutes. A KOSPI sidecar is triggered when the price of KOSPI 200 futures swings by more than 5% and stays at that level for at least 1 minute. The benchmark later paired some losses to close at 4,949, down 5.26% from Friday. The Korean won weakened on Monday with the US dollar rising against it by 1.72% to 1,464.31 at the close. The dollar itself has regained ground with this index ticking higher as expectations of aggressive Fed rate cuts have cooled. Volatility-sensitive assets declined over the past few days since Friday after U.S. President Donald Trump nominated Kevin Warsh, a former Federal Reserve governor, to succeed Jerome Powell as the next Fed chair. This is because the nomination has injected fresh uncertainty into markets. Safe haven and speculative assets took even bigger hits as gold and silver prices plunged sharply in a single session, with silver down 30% and gold down 10%. Bitcoin extended its losses over the weekend, breaking below the $80,000 level, hitting its lowest price range since April 2025. Analysts note that Warsh has long favored shrinking the Fed's balance sheet, a move that could push up long-term interest rates and tighten financial conditions. While Warsh at the Fed was known as a policy hawk who prioritized controlling inflation over supporting economic growth, his recent support for lower interest rates has raised questions over whether he will maintain a tight policy stance or pivot toward monetary easing. Looking ahead, the rest of the week is expected to bring catalysts that could amplify volatility. Investors are closely watching earnings from major AI players such as Alphabet, Google's parent company, and Amazon with a sharp focus on their capital spending plans and profitability outlook. While it may take time for the U.S. Congress to complete the next Fed chair's confirmation process, global investors are being warned to brace for short-term volatility. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
A sharp rise in semiconductor shipments drove South Korea's export gains in January. Exports climbed more than 30% from last year, keeping the country on an upward path. Kim Jun-ong has the details.
Overseas shipments jumped more than 30% in January from a year earlier, fueled by strong demand for semiconductors. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources said Sunday that January exports hit $65.85 billion, up 33.9% from last year. That's the highest January exports total on record, with the country now posting a trade surplus for 12 consecutive months. Rising demand from the expanding global AI market drove semiconductor exports, making chips the clear leader in January's export gains. Semiconductor exports totaled $20.54 billion for the month, more than double the level of 2025 and marking the highest January figure on record. Auto exports climbed 21.7% to $6.07 billion, driven by strong demand for eco-friendly vehicles, marking the second highest January level on record. Meanwhile, petrochemical exports fell 1.5% to $3.52 billion, dragged down by lower prices amid global oversupply. Exports to the United States rose 29.5% to $12.02 billion, marking the highest January level on record. Auto-related shipments were weighed down by tariffs, but triple-digit growth in semiconductor exports helped cushion the impact. Exports to China jumped 46.7% to $13.5 billion, signaling a recovery. Experts link the growth across major export markets as part of the broader AI-led expansion.
As AI demand expands, emerging suppliers, including China, are stepping up investment. This increase in facility investment is also boosting demand for other products and appears to have had a broad impact on exports this month.
Meanwhile, uncertainty over the U.S. economy, along with Washington's plan to reimpose 25% reciprocal and auto tariffs, is clouding the outlook for future export gains. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
More and more fans of Korean culture from overseas are buying Korean products directly online. And now, for a few years in a row, these numbers have been growing. While in 2025, there was an even bigger jump. Our Kim Do-yeon explains.
Overseas demand for Korean products continues to rise with the help of an expanding attraction to Korean culture. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Monday, reverse direct overseas sales, domestic companies selling directly to foreign consumers online, reached 3.02 trillion won, or around $2.1 billion in 2025. This represents a 16.4% increase from the previous year and marks 3 straight years of growth. By product, the demand for K-food has driven unprecedented growth. Online exports of food and beverages skyrocketed 49.2% year-on-year, reaching a record 112.9 billion won. To put this in perspective, sales stood at just 46.5 billion won in 2023. They jumped to 75.7 billion in 2024 and surged past the 100 billion mark in 2025. Cosmetics sales also rose by 20.4%, while clothing and fashion-related items posted a decline. Regarding imports or overseas direct purchases, the market grew by 5.2% to approximately 8.5 trillion won. China accounted for the largest share of this market. Purchases from China increased by roughly 15%, capturing 65.5% of total overseas direct purchases. This is attributed to the increased use of large Chinese platforms like AliExpress and Temu. In contrast, direct purchases from the United States decreased by 17.6%. The overall domestic online shopping market also grew, reaching a total transaction volume of 272 trillion won last year. However, the growth rate was 4.9%, the lowest growth since 2017. Data officials addressed questions regarding the impact of the Coupang incident and data breaches late last year. The ministry stated that whether these issues affected the total figures was not clarified, as specific transaction numbers for individual companies are not disclosed under statistical protocols. However, they noted that the overall market trend remains stable without unusual fluctuations. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
At his New Year's press conference on Monday, Prime Minister Kim Min-seok dismissed the argument that U.S. President Donald Trump's renewed tariff threat last week was triggered by South Korea's investigation into e-commerce company Coupang. Our correspondent Song Yejun reports.
Prime Minister Kim Min-seok says the claims linking U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff threats for South Korea to Seoul's probe into the U.S.-based e-commerce giant Coupang are, quote, completely unfounded.
Some media outlets have suggested that Vice President Vance has strongly warned or pressured South Korea over the Coupang investigation, portraying it as Washington's primary concern. That may reflect Coupang's own position, but it does not align with the confirmed stance of the U.S. government.
Speaking at his New Year's press conference on Monday, the Prime Minister said President Trump's social media post announcing a tariff increase on most South Korean goods from the negotiated 15% to 25% was instead tied to Washington's request for faster implementation of the agreement reached during tariff negotiations. He appeared to be referring to the Special Act on the Management of Strategic Investment between South Korea and the United States, submitted to the National Assembly last year, which provides the legal basis to manage Seoul's $350 billion investment pledge to the U.S. in exchange for lower tariffs. The bill is currently pending review by the relevant standing committee before it can be put to a vote. Kim said this understanding of Washington's position was confirmed through multiple communication channels, including his newly established hotline with Vice President J.D. Vance.
We exchanged direct contact information right there and then, including that of Vice President Vance and White House Deputy National Security Advisor Andy Baker. We've already been in frequent communication.
Regarding South Korea's ongoing investigation into Coupang's massive data breach, Kim reaffirmed that while legal issues would be handled strictly in accordance with the law, Seoul and Washington have agreed to maintain close communication to prevent this from escalating into unnecessary trade friction or misunderstandings. This follows growing scrutiny in the U.S., where some have raised concerns that the investigation may be overly stringent because Coupang is a U.S.-based company. 송유진, Arirang News.
Stephen Fuhr, Canada's defense procurement minister, visited Hanwha Ocean's Geoje shipyard on Monday for an on-site inspection ahead of the final bidding phase for the country's next-generation submarine program. With around 30 Canadian officials, Minister Fuhr toured around the facilities and boarded a 3,600-ton submarine, the ROKS Changyongsil. He reportedly said it was a great experience and that the technology was very advanced. A South Korean consortium led by Hanwha Ocean and HD Hyundai Heavy Industries is competing against a German company to win the Canadian Patrol submarine project, estimated at around 60 trillion won. Amid growing tensions with Iran, U.S. President Donald Trump said he hopes to make a deal. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister says he's confident a deal can be reached with the U.S. on Tehran's nuclear program. Cha Yoon-kyung reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump has responded to Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei after he warned of a potential regional conflict if there are U.S. strikes on Iran.
Why wouldn't he say that? Of course you're going to say that, but we have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, a couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
The remarks, made to reporters during a visit to Mar-a-Lago on Sunday local time, came as top U.S. and Israeli military officials held a meeting at the Pentagon on Friday local time amid growing tensions with Iran. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told CNN on Sunday local time that he was confident of a deal with the U.S. on Tehran's nuclear program. Araghchi, however, added that trust had been lost in the U.S. as a negotiating partner, but fruitful talks have taken place with friendly countries through the exchange of messages. Araghchi refused to promise that Iran would engage in direct talks with U.S. negotiators and highlighted the need to address the substance of negotiations rather than the form. Araghchi said the focus must be on Iran's nuclear capabilities when CNN pressed him on Iran's extensive missile arsenal. Instead, Araghchi said that Tehran would expect the lifting of U.S. economic sanctions and respect for Iran's right to continue nuclear enrichment. If talks fail, Araghchi promised that Iran was ready for war, although a war, he says, would be a disaster for everybody. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Trilateral talks to end the war in Ukraine have been delayed to February 4th, but it comes as Russia resumes attacks on Sunday, following a short ceasefire due to harsh weather conditions in Ukraine. Ian Jin reports.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a new round of U.S.-brokered trilateral talks between Ukraine and Russia will take place in Abu Dhabi on February 4th and 5th. President Zelensky posted this on his social media on Sunday, which was when the second round of talks were originally scheduled to begin. He added that Kyiv was ready for a substantive discussion. Neither Moscow nor Washington have confirmed the latest announcement, while top Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev said on Saturday that he held a, quote, constructive meeting with the U.S. peacemaking delegation in Florida. Negotiators from the three countries held their first trilateral meeting in Abu Dhabi on January 24th, which led to no breakthrough on the key issue of territory. Meanwhile, hours following Zelensky's announcement, Russia resumed attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. A drone attack hit a shuttle bus carrying mine workers in Ukraine's central eastern region. Ukraine's largest private energy firm DTEK and government officials said 12 miners have been killed and at least 15 have been injured. This comes after Russia had agreed to U.S. President Donald Trump's request to suspend a tax on energy infrastructure as Ukraine faces one of the coldest winters in years. On Friday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov had said that the limited ceasefire would only last until Sunday to provide a good basis for the peace talks. While energy systems were not attacked in recent days, President Zelensky said that Russia was attacking railway infrastructure and other logistics targets. Ukraine says continued attacks on civilians shows that Russia is pursuing a war contrary to peace efforts. Yun-jin, Arirang News.
K-pop Demon Hunter's success continues with the song Golden, claiming a first-ever Grammy win for K-pop. It secured the Best Song for Visual Media at the Grammy Awards, and the song was also nominated in the Song of the Year category. Our culture correspondent Park Gon-woo has the details.
After years of nominations and near misses, K-pop finally has its Grammy moment. On Sunday local time, Golden, one of the songs from the Netflix mega hit K-pop Demon Hunters, won Best Song for Visual Media at the Grammy Awards pre-telecast ceremony in Los Angeles. Songwriters including EJ, Teddy, and 24 took home the honor. Performed by the film's fictional girl trio Huntrix using the voices of EJ, Audrey Nuna, and Rayomi, the song marks a historic moment for K-pop, winning a Grammy, ahead of BTS, which has earned 5 Grammy nominations, but has yet to secure a win. The victory was widely reported by major global media outlets, including the New York Times, which described the win as ending a drought for the powerhouse global genre. Golden was also nominated in additional categories, including Song of the Year, but ultimately didn't secure another win. Also representing K-pop, Blackpink's Rosé earned 3 nominations for Apatu, her collaboration with Bruno Mars, including Song of the Year and Record of the Year, but didn't win. Song of the Year went to Billie Eilish for Wildflower, while Kendrick Lamar and SZA took home Record of the Year with Luther. Cat's Eye, a girl band created through a collaboration between Hybe and Geffen Records, was nominated in 2 categories, including Best New Artist. Still with multiple nominations and a historic first Grammy win for a K-pop song, experts say it has significance in itself. One expert said K-pop is now in the process of expanding its global reach.
K-pop is mainly driven by fans in their late teens and early 20s, and that generation isn't yet at the center of society. But this is really a matter of time. Awards are decided by people, and as today's K-pop fans grow into those voting bodies, things may change.
The same expert added that throughout the history of cultural arts, new movements are first embraced by younger generations, stressing the need for K-pop to maintain its distinct style while continuing to evolve through collaborations with the current mainstream, just as Rosé did with Bruno Mars. Now, as K-pop Demon Hunters has also been nominated in 2 categories at the upcoming Oscars in March, including Best Original Song, attention is on just how much higher K-pop can go. Up, up, and up. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung has congratulated Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters on its Grammy win for Best Song Written for Visual Media. In a social media post on Monday, he said the victory had written a new chapter in K-pop history, mentioning how it marked the first time a K-pop songwriter or producer has won a Grammy Award. The president also highlighted nominees, including Blackpink's Rosé and Yoonche, the Korean member of girl group Cat's Eye, calling them the pride of South Korea. He pledged to provide steadfast support so Korean artists can spread their wings on the global stage. Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we turn to our sports editor, Paul Nitz, joining us in the studio. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Paul, let's begin with golf. A runner-up finish for Kim Si-woo, right?
Yes, at the PGA Tour Farmers Insurance Open in San Diego, California, Kim on Sunday finished joint second at 16 under par, 272. The final round saw him hit 4 birdies and 1 bogey for 3 under 69. Now, Kim shot in the 60s throughout all 4 rounds and in every round of every event so far this year, with the exception of the final day of the American Express. Now, second marks his best finish of the season so far, having placed 11th at the Sony Open, then in 6th place last week at the American Express. He takes home just over $726,000 in prize money. Justin Rose, meanwhile, finished in first. Up next is the WM Phoenix Open later this week.
I see. And it wasn't just Kim Siu who finished second. Yang Hee-young also did too on the LPGA tour, right? So tell us more.
Right, getting off to a really good start for the new LPGA Tour season. Yang Hee-young on Sunday in Orlando, Florida at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. The season opener finished at 10 under par, 206, just 3 strokes shy of Nelly Korda in first. Now, the event was originally scheduled for 4 rounds and 72 holes, but was shortened to 54 due to strong winds and low temperatures. Korda had already completed the 3rd round the day before and secured the victory without even returning to the course. Yang had 2 holes remaining in the 3rd round, but she parred the 17th and 18th. Meanwhile, Hwang Yoo-min finished tied for 5th, and Kim Ah-rim, Lee So-mi and Yoo Hae-ran all finished tied for 9th.
Paul, moving on to football now. Kang-in is finally back from injury, right?
Yes, he made his return on Sunday in PSG's 2-1 away win over Strasbourg in the French top flight. He came off the bench to replace Bradley Barcola on 60 minutes with the score at 1-1. He played a part in the winning goal too, holding onto the ball and moving away from 3 players in the middle of the pitch before supplying Warren Zaire-Emery out wide, who then got the assist for Nuno Mendes. At the time, PSG were down to 10 men following Achraf Hakimi's straight red card. He had missed PSG's last 3 league games, plus 2 more in the Champions League and 2 more in the French Cup due to a thigh injury. The win keeps PSG top of the table, 2 points clear of Lyon.
And finally, to baseball, I understand there could be bigger bonuses if Team Korea wins the World Baseball Classic, right?
Right. The KBO held a meeting last week to discuss a number of issues, and one of those was bonuses for the national team. Now, according to Yonhap News, around $280,000 will be given to the team for reaching the quarterfinals of the World Baseball Classic. Korea have failed to get past the first stage in the last 3 editions, so the bonus is seen as a way to make sure it isn't a 4th group stage exit. But there's more. Should Korea reach the semis, that's $410,000, double the amount from last time. Runner-up would earn around $550,000, and winning it outright would be around $680,000. All increases compared to last time. The World Baseball Classic begins March 5th in Japan, Puerto Rico and the US. Korea are in Pool C with Japan, Australia, the Czech Republic and Chinese Taipei.
I see. Great stuff as always. I'll see you next Monday, Paul.
Thank you, yes.
We saw a lot of snow at the beginning of February, but that has mostly come to an end. Even so, parts of Seoul saw around 7 centimeters of snow, and there are still many areas with snow on the ground. Roads could be especially icy, so extra caution is necessary to avoid any accidents. Meanwhile, dry weather warnings for the Seoul metropolitan area have been lifted. However, dry weather warnings remain in eastern parts of the country and Jeollanam-do province. 서울 and Gyeongju will start off at -7 degrees Celsius, Gwangju and Busan at -3 degrees. Highs will rise to 4 degrees in Chuncheon and Seoul, 8 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju. There's no severe cold wave expected this week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.